And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcast Network. Every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time, we are here. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host, and I'm coming to you live every week from my home in Los Angeles, California. This show is about humanity. It's about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about passion. It's about being your best you and inspiring others to do the same in this big, beautiful world. And it may be my show, my friends, but it is always and forever your experience. My guest today is a wonderfully talented everything, right? Spiritual being, psychic, speaker, author, medium, probably known to many of you for her work on the wonderful television show Paranormal State. She is part of many wonderful communities that she gives to, and she's just fantastic. And I always love having her as a guest, and she's a very dear friend. Please welcome the wonderful Michelle Belanger. Hello, my friend. How are you? It's good to see your face.
Good to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
We do a lot of radio.
One can be with what's going on in the world.
Right. I know. And we'll talk about that. We do a lot of radio, but I don't think I've seen your face in almost 10 years. Isn't it strange how the importance of seeing a face is not what it was, right? That the internet, I think, makes us all sort of touch each other soul to soul more. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten used to that. You don't have to be in a room with somebody to feel like you know them anymore.
Well, especially with the pandemic and people who were isolated during lockdown and whatnot, like suddenly people were doing ritual work and energy work and stuff. And it was all your contact was Zoom. And similar things where you had to adapt to the fact that whether or not you were physically in the same space, you could always be conceptually in the same space.
Yeah, it was easy for me because my practice is all over like yours, right? So I've always had clients all over the world, and I've always done most of my work on the phone. I miss going out places to teach. I miss being with people in person, but I don't find that spiritually anything lacks. It's just that for me, I like the excitement of being around people, but I'm an extroverted introvert, right? So I also have loved this 2 years to be able to be in my own space more than I ever have been and not always have 50 places I have to be every day. It's actually kind of refreshing, and it's been a nice reset for me. And I think it's been a nice reset for everybody. I know it's hard to think of anything as a positive in the world that we have lived in the last 2 years, and obviously the world we are living in recently. But I do think that for many people, the time alone in their own space, in their own head, spending more time with their animal companions has helped people to find out a little better who they are. Have you found that to be the experience?
I've certainly enjoyed being able to hold up in my space. I mean, I'm a Capricorn and Taurus, Aries and all of that. So like I'm super earth sign in the sense of like, just give me my space. It takes a crowbar to get me out of it on a good day when there's not a pandemic.
Right. Yes. And I'm like that too. That's right. We have very similar signs. I'm an Aries, Cat Moon, Virgo rising, Taurus, Venus. So me too. I like, I'm happy to go out in the world and put my armor on and do my thing because that's my service. But I'm always happy to come back with a cat on my lap and have some time to decompress is kind of my special space. And I used to have to really look for that time. I mean, I still do because I'm still that busy, but I'm not spending all that time out and about anymore like I used to. And I don't know when the world comes back if I will go back to doing that again, because I'm doing so much spiritual work now and my practice is so busy that this is kind of, I don't know that I will go back to having 6 parties to go to in a day. And you know what I mean? I think this time has changed all of us and has given us sort of a reset. And many of us have become, for me, kind of going back to who I was when I was a kid,
A lot of it
but
made me
without the
ask the
braces.
question of like, what was I doing because I felt obligated to do, and what
Yeah,
was I
yeah,
doing because I enjoyed doing it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, there's certain obligations where you're doing it in service, and it's okay.
sure.
But especially like the convention circuit, you know, as somebody who does television work and book stuff, running
Right.
around from convention to convention and dealing with like 75,000 people and like hustling from panel
Yeah.
to panel is really not my favorite thing. Like I love meeting the people who came to listen and like hearing their stories and getting the sort of like cross section of people who are able to travel. But one thing that the pandemic has definitely shown for me is for as many people who could come to that, there's so many who were excluded because they couldn't afford to, they didn't have
Mhm.
mobility, like the access wasn't there. And yeah, I really prefer on like a deep personal level, have a conversation here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I don't know, it's a little soul healing to be able to hold those boundaries much more tightly as well, at least for me.
I completely agree. And you know, I had COVID. This is my two-year anniversary this week. And I have a lot of the long haul stuff that people have. And it's the first time in my life, with all the health problems I've had in my life, that I've ever put myself first. That when people now say, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to do something that's good for my health, and I'm going to put my health first. Because you know, I grew up in the entertainment business where health schmealth, right? It was all about if you get a job, you got to take it. It could be your last one. Run, run, run. Say yes to everything. That's what I thought about when you were talking about feeling obligated, right? You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to do what they say. You know what? I'm going to be 55 next month. I don't think I have to do what they say anymore. Now I'm making the choices that are healthy for me, and I'm fortunate enough, right, that a spiritual practice is something you can do from anywhere you are. So yeah, if I feel like going to a convention, great. If I feel like going to Dallas to teach, wonderful. If I feel like I'm going to turn on my iPad and do it all from here, okay. And I found that people will follow you wherever you are, right? You don't have to feel obligated to always be the hamster on the wheel. And I think that's a good bit of advice for everybody in their life.
Yeah, take some time for you.
Yeah, and just take some time to figure out what it is that you want, um and what, you know, what talk a lot on the show about service. I say that word a lot. I think I say that word everywhere I
Mm.
go. I say that word a lot. I feel like it's so important to find out what your place in the world is and just do it. And I think if we all did that, it would be a happier place and we'd have less negativity in the world. And I think a lot of the negativity that we see in the world is from folks who are disconnected from themselves, spiritually and emotionally. And I think whatever it takes to find out who you are and what makes you tick, it's so important that you find that and you do that, because we're trying to build a healthier world here. And I know that's a crazy thing to say in the face of everyone we've lost and everyone who is ill and continuing to be ill from COVID, in the face of what's going on in the world now with a country being invaded. But I just think that we all on an overall need to get healthier, right? Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, and part of that holding boundaries, you're not doing that only for yourself, especially if what you're doing is going out and doing energy work, doing healing work, doing any kind of like psychic
Yes.
connection. If you are there and a part of you is not in a good place, a part of you resents being out, uh, some of that's going to touch and color what you're doing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so if you're not like wholly present and wholly there, if some part of
Right.
you is just like, oh man, I wish I could just be at home, that's going to taint the experience. People will feel that.
Yeah, I agree. That's true. I mean, I think when I was out, I loved it. I'm just
Mm,
really not realizing now how much I love not being out. And I'm sure I'll love it again when things open up. I mean, are you planning to go back to the convention circuit with the fervor that you did before the pandemic?
I mean, not with the fervor that I did before, and I think part of that is definitely aging out. Like you, I'm closer to like my 50s than I am anything else, and
Yes.
there's a point where you're just like, eh, like I think I have deserved some time to put my feet up, dang it, and just sit here with the cat on my lap.
Yeah, yeah, because it's exhausting. Um, Not to have a cat on your lap, that is nirvana.
Mm,
But it's
mm-hmm.
exhausting to be around that many people. When I was in my 6 years ago, 2016, after my mom passed, I developed intermittent atrial fibrillation, and I had my first really bad bout of it the Christmas of 2016. And at the time, I was broadcasting live from the Hollywood Improv to like a live audience of 200 people, 3 or 4 times a year. And I had one coming out in January. It was the anniversary of this show when it was a radio show. And I didn't think anything of it. I've been out of the hospital 2 weeks. I felt great. I thought, well, I'm great. I'm in a regular sinus rhythm. It's all good. So I go to the Improv, right? And I'm doing this red carpet and it's taking pictures with everybody, right? And suddenly, whoop, I popped into AFib. And I realized that knowingly or unknowingly, right? Being around a lot of folks can be draining, and certain folks are extra draining. And I had to start really kind of filtering energetically and putting up screens and filters and boundaries empathically for how much I let people kind of pull out of me. And most people, don't even know they're doing it, and they're not doing it on purpose. But even just a hug, right? Some people, when they hug you, they put something into you. But some people, when they hug you, they pull something out of you because they need something and they're needy. And I always want to be a people pleaser and help everybody. And that was my first kind of foray with boundaries, where I realized, oh, you know what? I can't hug 200 people in a 45-minute period. I have to take care of myself. And have, that's been the last couple of years of my life is making sure I take care of myself like that. I don't think that and about that, right? A lot about energy exchange and the giving and taking of energy. And I think as healers, we're constantly giving people our energy. And I'm so happy to do that. But I have to be careful how many in an hour,
Yeah, well, and those boundaries and limits are essential because, there's that old sawhorse of put your own mask on before you put the mask on anybody else. If the oxygen mask drops in the airport or in the airplane.
Yes.
And, you can't heal anyone if you're on the floor. You can't put anybody out if you yourself are on fire and you have not put yourself out. So
exactly.
So many things.
Yes.
We have to
It's
take
so
care of
important.
ourselves
in
order to be in service to others.
So true. Healers need to make sure they heal themselves first. I agree. That's such an important thing. So I know that you probably want to talk a little about what's going on with the world. I was laughing before we were setting up today that during sound check that it seems like every time there's a major world catastrophe of some kind, you and I are always just about to do a show. So I should have known when I booked you months ago in this time slot that it was coming. How do you think, from a spiritual perspective, what's going on in the Ukraine and what has been building up and going on maybe with countries like Russia for a while? How does that play into sort of the balance of positivity and negativity in the world?
Well, as I spout off online regularly, I feel like we've been in basically wartime with Putin and his elements for years at this point. It's just most people didn't recognize the battlefield was a conceptual battlefield of words and language and information. And the reason that those attempts have worked as well as they have is they definitely targeted a lot of humanity's darker qualities. Found the wedge, like the weak points to drive in a wedge to make us, if we're a little bit uncomfortable with our neighbors who look different from us, really take that and heighten it and turn it into this point where we're just screaming at one another and no longer able to have a conversation. To take people who are not really very good at judging the information coming their way and feed on their fear. Feed on the sense that everybody's lying to you and here's this thing and you need to protect yourself and what about the children, and just like building up on all of our, basically feeding all of our demons from a conceptual point of view.
I agree. But isn't that kind of what darkness does, right? Darkness whispers in your ear and tells you, oh, you know what you should be scared of. You should be scared of them and this and those people and this guy over here. I mean, I think that so many things I'll give you an example. Maybe 10 years ago, I had sort of a malignant narcissist that found me. And, whenever you get one of those in your periphery, it's like kicking out a demon. And as I moved away and from the situation, and many others did too, I noticed the people who stayed were people who in their lives were people who were full of fear, right? Or people who were addicts, which is another kind of fear. There was a fear inside of people that allowed that particular kind of personality to hook them in. And I think we see that on a global level, right? Sometimes with politics or with politicians, information that's being fed to us, sometimes clergy, people that belong to churches that are large institutions. There's a fear inside of us that gets fed. I completely agree. It all comes down to fear. As a matter of fact, I think so many of our isms as human beings comes down to fear, right? Phobias are fear. Inadequacies are fear. Sometimes, bigotry, racism, homophobia, it's fear. If we could just as people kick out fear, and we all have fears that we need to kick out, right? But overall living in fear makes you susceptible to, especially now with the internet, right? It makes you susceptible to read all of this stuff. And it amazes me. I'll give you an example. I was in a meeting of the minds group with a bunch of high spiritual people. I'm going to let you, because we're on video, actually
I was
see
going to
my
say, I
finger
could hear
quotes.
the air quotes for that. Grand
And one of these people who claimed to be a spiritual nutritionist, okay, was telling everybody how she had invented a serum that you could take so that if you sat next to people who had had the vaccine, the juju didn't come off of them and penetrate you spiritually and ruin your chi and your immune system. Now, I think if you want to be vaccinated or not vaccinated, that's your choice. I am not somebody who believes everybody has to do something because I say so. But to believe that you are going to get vaccine cooties by sitting in a room with somebody who's had a vaccine, and that these cooties are then going to break down your system and give you the symptoms of COVID. First of all, wow. And secondly, if you have the symptoms of COVID, perhaps you have COVID and just don't know it. But yeah, I was a little shocked because I think that as growing up a person who I consider to be a progressive person, was raised by progressive people, I think that was my bad in thinking that those kind of internet conspiracies were sort of what somebody who maybe grew up a little bit differently spiritually and politically than I did would believe. But to be in this big new age conference and have somebody talk about the cooties, that was a little bizarre, right? And I guess I say that to say that, guess what? Fear can touch everyone. Fear penetrates everybody. Just because somebody was raised a certain way or has a certain level of education or holds a certain position or has a certain kind of spiritual mindset doesn't mean that fear can't still get to them.
I've seen it described as the conspirituality movement. I know there's a book coming out in 2023 assessing, because we think of the folks who are on those extreme points of view who are like, driven by their fear as being incredibly conservative people, like Bible thumping people.
Yes.
Of ourselves sitting here meditating, clearing our chakras as well. We're not like that. We couldn't possibly fall for that. And the thing is it's well-crafted disinformation knows exactly what psychological approaches are necessary to target anyone and everyone, no matter who they think they are, whether you're left, right, center, from outer space. If you've got the right fractures in how you approach the world, if they can take your fear and find a way to weaponize it, they can. And it doesn't matter if you are someone who wants to meditate versus someone who's going to go to a Pentecostal rally. So we all have to really question, what's the motivation of the person who's giving us this information?
Could it be by my serum?
Yeah. what do they get out of this information?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
making sure that it's not just like, oh well, I've done my research, which is to say I watched a couple of videos on YouTube and they told me exactly what I wanted to hear.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And also, it's not necessarily, I think we think of like the mass brainwashing of a people, right? We think, Hitler stood up and all of Germany, suddenly their eyes were spinning. And it's not like that. It's one person at a time. I mean, the fear and the way that the fear comes in and the way that the fear penetrates and spreads is one person at a time, right? One person becomes a believer of fear, and then that person spreads it to other people. And half the people they talk to may say, oh my God, you're so full of crap. I don't believe this at all. But the ones with the fear, it's a parasite, right? It's a spiritual parasite in a way. It burrows into you and it starts to fester. And I think that's why it's so important that all of us in this crazy world right now become our best us, right? And our strongest us, and build up that strength around our inner core so that we're not allowing these kind of fear parasites to crawl in and start us down a rabbit hole, right?
Really effective disinfo and psychological operations like that come at you like a narcissist.
Yes.
So they will give you a little bit of truth, but then also a bunch of crap along with the truth.
Right.
The truth,
right.
You just also swallow the crap. And if you
Right.
question, you get gaslit, or you get blamed for pushing back. Like you really have to think of it as if there's an element in society that is treating you, that is coming at you like a narcissist. All at the same
Yes,
time.
exactly. Well, there's and I'm, it's so funny because I'm kind of, this is a little idea I'm tossing around, doing a little writing on this right now. And you're the first person I've told that about the similarities between darkness within humans and darkness within non-human entities, and darkness on its own is all pretty much the same, right? If you are being tormented in your home by negative energy or by something demonic or whatever it is that's negative, it's very much like having a human narcissist in your life that you're trying to deal with. I mean, the effects to your physical body, the effects to your emotionality, the effects to your spiritual immune system, the effects to your lifestyle are oftentimes exactly the same, right? You can't sleep. It never leaves you alone. You're thinking in your mind all the time about it. You're scared to walk away. I mean, it's all that same stuff. Darkness is darkness, no matter where it's sprinkled, right?
Yeah, bullies, predators, emotional abusers, no matter like who or what they are. Like, there are people who the tactic is to erode your boundaries. Like, here, I'm going to push this boundary. If you don't push back, I'll push further next time, and I'll keep pushing it until you don't have any boundaries at all, and I'm just inside of you pushing.
Right, exactly, right. And it's the same thing. And so I think whether you have a human in your life that is malignant and a narcissist and dark, or you have something in your house that you can't get rid of, you have to fight it the same way. And the fighting starts with eliminating the fear, right? I mean, it's the best way to fight the boogeyman is you open up the closet door and throw the clothes to both sides and go, I don't care if you're here. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. And I think that's why I think as everybody is freaking out, and of course, I, like you, probably have friends that are texting me every day saying, I can't breathe because of Ukraine. Oh my God, oh my God. And I'm not saying it's not serious, but I am saying if we all live in a place of fear, that's what the darkness wants, right? If we spend all of our life scared that every day we're going to open our door and there's going to be Putin with a tank, that's what it wants, because that's how you start getting broken down. You start getting broken down by your belief that this thing, whatever it is, them is coming for you, and there's nothing you can do to get away.
Well, and even if we don't think that we're under siege, there's this, especially for those of us who are empathetic, who are sort of healers by nature, there's this sense that if we look away, that if we don't do something, at least bear witness, then somehow we are contributing to the problem. Somehow we're failing. So even though it is completely overwhelming us, and heaven forfend that we step back, and because we can take joy in our lives right now, like there's this sense that you must sacrifice that because other people are suffering. And I
Yes.
can guarantee that people who are going through terrible things, the instant they have the opportunity to have something joyful, they will seize it with both hands, because that's
Yeah.
why you're human. That's how you survive. Like, you remind yourself why life is worth living. So one of the things that we must do at a time like this, I'm not saying don't try to help, because like we should pull together, we should pay attention, we should call things
Sure.
out, but we also should have boundaries about that. We should be able to
Yeah.
step back. We should not feel guilty or ashamed for also enjoying things in our lives, reminding
Yes.
ourselves why we value life so much that we would want to fight for it.
Yes. Well, and just what we talked about earlier about me saying that I think a lot of folks have had time to sort of clean their closets, metaphorically, in getting to know themselves better with all this time in their own heads since
Mhm.
COVID started. I've had people jump me about that. I have this belief that one of the spiritual reasons behind the pandemic was that for the first time in our lifetimes, right? One thing was happening to the entire world. Even World War II, there was places you could live on the earth where it didn't affect you. But disasters, right? That's could be in somebody else's territory or it can be in yours, but it's not everywhere. This pandemic went every single place on the planet. And for once, there was no us and them. There was just us. We were all one human family fighting a common enemy, which was a virus. And I think that was a good spiritual lesson for everyone on the earth. And I've had people get very upset when I've said that. Well, you're not talking about the deaths and the illness. And I'm like, people, I am the illness. I get it. And the deaths are horrible. But there has to be a lesson in everything. There has to be, you know what I mean? There has to be a daisy growing out of the scorched earth. Otherwise, we have no way to regroup our hope and move on. And staying in a place of hope, staying in a place of love, staying in a place of gratefulness. I mean, that's what keeps us moving in positivity and light, right? And stops us from becoming susceptible to the darkness. How do you feel about that?
I mean, as a lesson, as a challenge to humanity, I'm I'm a little cynical, because I think a lot did not pass that test. Like really, like for a little while did pull together. Like I remember um early in 2020 when the pandemic like shut everything down. And there were videos coming out of Italy specifically,
Mm.
where everybody's stuck in their houses and they would stand on the balcony at a certain time of the day and they just sing. Like just the whole town would sing together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like there was such a sense of camaraderie, of mutual support, of taking pleasures in these brief, beautiful moments in the middle of huge uncertainty and suffering and death. And that was what I hoped we would all collectively take out of that, that we are all in it together, that we all need to pull together.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a whole lot of people driving wedges against one another, and a whole lot of people creating little ideological fiefdoms of,
Yes.
just and frankly using this disaster each for their own purposes, opportunistically
Mm.
uh, making a bigger issue out of it. Just I don't know. I would
Yeah.
love for I would love for things to get to a point where humanity could actually honestly pull together for the common good, and for every person, not just most, not just some, but for everybody to realize that it is for the common good, that we need to work together. But that impulse for some folks is just too strong. That impulse to just be like, but what about me? I got mine. I want mine. This is mine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
inevitably that means that I'm, and if I'm taking away from you, that's fine. I don't care. But it's which that's the
Yeah.
dark.
It's hard. Yeah. That's the darkness. Right. And that ability that stops us within ourselves from doing what we know we should do, which we should all band together and love each other and be
Mhm.
good with each other. But look, it happened for a while, right? For a while, we were all fighting COVID, and everybody was in it together and rah, 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 and let's fight COVID, and here we go. And then people started denying there was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
There's no COVID. It's all made up by these people. Then the vaccine came, right? And then that's all the controversy there. So we found a way, as people do, right, to put that rift in there. I always say that when three people are in a room, sometimes two people will find a reason not to like the third one. It's a human thing. I think it's a mammalian thing, right? We're basically special toddlers. We're not, as a species goes, the crocodile is laughing at us like, haven't you guys figured your crap out yet? You know what I mean? We're still in diapers trying to figure it out. And I think that need to dominate and that need to be the one who is right and that need to be the one who says, well, my group is here and your group is there and my group is good and your group is bad. I'm hoping that's something that we will eventually evolve out of. But it seems to be something we have a problem with now. And what should have caused universal love, global love, and I think for some people, the pandemic really did make people think, oh, well, maybe people who got this in Botswana are very much like me. I think then the vaccine thing came in and then it suddenly became, I'm right, you're wrong. And then it just got crazy. And it's, it's like human beings look for something to have the turmoil over, look for a reason to be upset at somebody, look for a reason to, I have to always be right. And I think that is the darkness within us as well, that need to continually create chaos where there is nothing, and that need to continually prove our superiority. I think that is kind of dark thinking as well.
Well, I would agree. I mean, folks who, one of the things that like completely astounded me are the folks who are like 100% against the COVID vaccine in the military, when every single person I know who's enlisted in the military, like the very first thing that you do in basic training, like you get shot up with 1,000,000,001 different things.
Oh my
like,
God, yes,
something that you
like
get
100 things. Yes,
yeah, like
exactly.
There's no question, there's no arguing it. You don't get to say no. Like you are just
right.
These are the things that you have to do, and this one is a bridge too far. This one,
right?
And
right.
the way in which it was politicized is really telling in that particular instance. Didn't have a problem with these 50 other ones. The point where like they line you up in a thing, they've shot you in both of your ass cheeks, and they ask you to like just roll around on your butt so that the boluses of stuff like distribute. You can do exercises the next day when they call you.
Right. Stand on your head and jump up and down.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know. And I mean, do you think we're ever going to evolve out of that? Do you think that we're ever going to? I always think of the Nostradamus prediction, right? Where he saw the two worlds, the two ways the world could go. And the one was very much like almost a Garden of Eden, where everything was wonderful and there was peace and we didn't need currency anymore. And everybody took care of everybody. And then the other one was just like clouds and tanks and mushroom clouds everywhere. And I always think about that when I think of the way that we can go. And I guess as an Aries, I believe that we can go to the Nirvana garden where we don't worry about anything. And there are no more enemies. But then, I have a Capricorn moon and then it's like, well, I don't know. Look at the tanks. So, I mean, I really believe that someday we can achieve a peaceful world. I just think we're just babies now, and we don't know how to do it. We're always sort of pounding our fists on the ground and threatening to hold our breath till we turn blue.
I just see humans doing the same cyclic stuff over and over and over again, and managing to forget that it happened before, and or arguing like this time we will be different, and then just doing it all over again for the exact same
right. Mommy, I promise I'll never do it again, and then finger in the light socket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think it has to do with the age of our species, or do you think it has to do with, my mom used to say, humans were just smart enough to be dangerous? I mean, do you think it's that? I mean, or do you think we're going to get it together more and more as we evolve? Or is this just what this teaching planet is? It's just always insanity while we're here.
I don't know that I can keep my own personal cynicism out of that answer, because this has been going on for a really long time.
Yeah, I know.
humans just don't seem to get it, and it's really hard not to like want to like bang your head against the wall and be like, but how is this hard? Like how, why is it even hard? Like, this is in everybody's best interest. So
Right.
I don't know what it will take. Like I frankly do not know, because every time there's a disaster, every time there's a cataclysmic near world ending event, and these are not the first, uh, I'm like, well, maybe this time they'll get it right this time. And here we are, still on the same treadmill. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, right? Do you think overall we're getting better? I mean, overall, from the beginning of man, right, until now, do you think overall we're becoming more enlightened?
Hmm. I see cycles, and in the same way that civilization rises and falls in like our technological advancement, we rise and
Sure.
fall in spiritual advancement. But inevitably, whenever things start to like really hit a certain peak, there's another factor in our populace that makes us stumble, and then we kind
Mm.
of find ourselves back at square one. And I truly don't know the answer. I've been racking my brain with it, watching the train just go right off the tracks again.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
and it reminds me of things that I remember from a really long time ago. And I I used to think I had the answer then. I really don't have the answer now. I don't know what it'll take. I wish
Yeah.
people were, because I know it's there. Like it's right there. We can see it. We talk about it. We dream about it. And then just actually actualizing it seems to be the hard part.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think that's it's like a kid with an emotional disturbance, right?
Mm,
My mom taught emotionally disturbed kids when I was little, and she would come home and tell me the stories, and they got it, right? They got it. They're behaving. They're not stabbing anyone with a pencil. We're all good. And then, you know what I mean? And I think we kind of do that as a species too. We got this. We got this. We got this. Oh, we screwed it up. And sometimes I think that spirit must have like a perpetual face palm, like every time, like, oh, not good, because we do we it seems like we're ticking and popping along, and then something crazy happens. But I also think that is oftentimes the darkness, because I believe that the universe is an equal balance of light and dark. Some people don't believe that. They think it's all light and a little bit of dark, and dark's just kind of silly and has a pitchfork. I really believe it's an equal balance, right? And both sides are always sort of trying to swing the pendulum in their direction. And sometimes darkness wins. And we see that sometimes. And I think this week has certainly been an instance where darkness has risen. And I think it happens the same thing if you have, like I said, negative activity in your home or your workplace. Sometimes you'll go months at a time and there's nothing. And then out of the blue, you open up the kitchen and the dishes are smashed. I mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't just go away like that. And I think so many of the things that we see are like equivalent to poltergeist, right? This house is clean. Okay, till the next week. And I think it's that way with humans too. Just when we think, well, we've eradicated, like after World War II, right? We have
mm.
eradicated the darkness forever. And then, 2 weeks later, the USSR rose. So it's constant. And I think it is an exercise for us who are here on this teaching planet, in soul school, as I like to call it, to continue to perpetuate positivity in our lives in the face of things going on around us that are not so positive. Is that something that you struggle with?
Well, what I will say is, like, the past couple of weeks, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is, you know, fear is obviously part of the problem, but like, what if some of it's our collective fear about pushing back, our collective fear about holding boundaries? What will happen if we do stand up for ourselves? What happens if we do call out the bad stuff?
Yeah.
Because I see that hold us back a lot, and that hesitancy to push back against the darkness. There is a chess grandmaster who's been offering a fair amount of insight into what's going on between Russia and Ukraine.
Oh,
And
interesting.
one of the things that he's said specifically is when evil is acting, like the longer you allow someone to take evil actions, the bigger the cost will be to stop them. So when
Right.
someone is on the offensive, if you keep letting them push that offensive, the harder it's going. Not only is it going to be harder to push back, but it's going to be costlier. It's going to cost you in sacrificing, in terms of chess, different pieces and pawns and whatnot. But like we're on a planet where those pawns aren't little chess pieces. Those are people. Those are human beings. That's
Right.
the cost of the environment. Look, the breathless moments last night at that nuclear power plant, like holy moly.
Right.
The animals, the companion pets, everything that's suffering. So I really do wonder if some of it comes down to not only that we allow fear to motivate us, but we also allow fear to stop us when we know on a profound level that what we should do is speak up. What we should do is push back. What we should do is, find the courage, even though we're afraid, to champion what we know to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, there's that fear, right? That if you cause a ruckus, it's going to be worse for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have all become very fearful of that, very fearful of standing up to people who are doing things that we see that are wrong because we don't want to get involved because it could be us next.
But again, to go back to narcissists, though, that's exactly how a narcissist will groom you.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
No, you don't get to. You don't speak up. No. Don't speak against me.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
You're going to cause a fuss. Don't embarrass us.
Yes, exactly. Right. And that's how people get it gets built up inside of people from a very young age not to fight back. And one narcissist can make someone not fight back for the rest of their life, even in any situation, because you begin to think, oh, I guess anything is going to be, I'm just going to be worse. It's going to be worse. And I think we even deal with that with spirit activity, right? Don't remodel your home because they get upset and they'll come out more. Don't fight back. Don't say anything. You spend your life in your house like, oh, I hope the ghost doesn't get me.
Yeah,
I just think
don't talk about it because people won't believe you. People will think you're crazy.
Right.
Don't talk about it because people will shame you. What will your neighbors think?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so we are taught to not fight for ourselves, not stand up for ourselves. And then the fear really starts to get you, right? And that's how you develop, strange phobias of things, and because you never are allowed to deal with anything when it's actually happening. And because now we're reading all this stuff, right? Everything is fear-based. A commercial comes on TV for my favorite one right now is the one about the bent penis, bentcarrot.com, because they won't, they won't say penis, so they show carrots. I think it's hysterical. And the whole idea is, it's no big deal if you've got it. You just get this medication, and everything's going to be okay. And then while they're showing these little bent carrots floating to the world, they start listing the side effects, and they are the most awful, gruesome. Like if I had a penis, which I don't, contrary to popular belief, I would rather it be like tied in a knot than to deal with those side effects. But I can list 50 medications like that, right? The antidepressants and the anti-seizure medications and the anti-anxiety medications. And it's like a happy person dancing along, the one where the bladder follows you, the little cartoon bladder. Yeah. But then the list of side effects come, and it's like apocalyptic.
No, the pharmaceutical industry and the way they really will just push stuff like that, I totally understand why there is just I don't trust anything related to that. I could totally get that just creeping fear, because they're like, here, take this pill, it will fix your sniffles. Oh, by the way, tomorrow your head might explode. It's fine.
Right.
It's just, don't worry about it.
Right. Yes, exactly. You're going to feel so much less depressed, but just ignore the rectal bleeding and the seizures. I mean, so I think that my point is, I think those commercials, right, are really affecting a generation of hypochondriacs. Everybody's becoming terrified now. if you go to WebMD and type in sniffle, right, it gives you
Oh.
like all these things that you could die from. Please, no one ever go to WebMD and type anything in ever again.
I
So
have
we're
friends. My wife specifically had like a little thing where I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm checking symptoms on the internet. I'm like, no, please
no,
just
take that away.
stop.
Right,
And this
parental
goes like the
control.
Mayo Clinic or somewhere, Cleveland Clinic's
Exactly.
website, anywhere beyond WebMD.
Yes.
Please, for the love of
Right,
all
and
that's
poor
holy.
WebMD, they're just giving you every scenario that could happen. But we don't need that because then it festers inside of us and it grows more fear. Now people are getting scared to go to doctors because of the fear of everything they think they could have when they probably just have a UTI or a sinus infection.
Well, and
So
our healthcare system is completely broken, so it's not like most people realize that they can and should advocate for themselves, that they should have a doctor that they can actually have a conversation with, and that like they should be able and have the freedom to shop around until they have someone who they feel comfortable with, they feel respected by, as opposed to
right.
someone who's just like checking things off of a box, shows up for 5 minutes, gives you a $6,000 bill, and walks off.
Yes. Right. Exactly. Right. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, I think that things in our environment that are supposed to be helpful, right? Oh, here's a commercial. So, you know, if you're depressed, there's help, are now turning into more fear. Because it's almost like humans have an impulse control problem. We can't say, and even I think a lot of doctors now, you know, when I was young, doctors were like family doctors and they hugged you and patted you on the back and told you were going to be okay. I remember my mom laughing when I had to have a lot of surgeries as a kid that the doctor, she's like, I can hear him up and down the hall telling everybody, hey, honey, how are you? It's going to be okay. But now they're trained, they have to tell you every single bad thing that could happen. And I think it's people are becoming more and more fearful to go see a doctor because they're scared of what the doctors are just being told in med school. You have to tell them it could be this, it looks like a hangnail, but it could be cancer. And you know, and it's actually harming instead of helping. So I think our internet that is so beautiful and lovely, people have to learn you can't take in every bit of information and take it personally and digest it as if it's happening directly to you.
Truth.
You know, even with so many people, right? So my girlfriend's got 3 kids, and I hear like friends calling them and going, "Oh my God, dude, it's World War III." Well, you know, it's not World War III yet, and those of us who have our AARP cards remember that there was a time when the Russians invaded everyone every 5 minutes. And then we would go to the defense and help. And that happened, happening since the Korean War. It's just what Russia did.
Oh my God, I think it's World War III. What do I do? And Gen X is like, cue up some REM, kick back,
exactly.
Music, read a few things.
Exactly.
Like, if it's gonna happen, like you individually cannot do much to stop it. So
exactly. Yes. Rewatch War Games. And calm down. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But that's, you know what I mean? So I just think that we are almost raising every generation to become more and more reactive. And I worry about that because the human animal is reactive enough without all these external elements being put into the mix to fire us up more. Because oftentimes we just wind up shooting ourselves in the foot. It's not like we get fired up and then something good happens. Oftentimes, yes, but a lot of times, you know, we go out and get that gun to protect ourselves, then we shoot ourselves in the foot. So it's you know.
I think one of the difficult things facing us is like we have never been so immersed in so much information so swiftly, like instantly, as we are now, arguably ever, certainly within any point of civilization as we understand it. And we are not equipped. We're certainly not educating people to be equipped to navigate a world where there's that much information all the time. Nobody has the tools and knows how to teach those tools of what to shut out, when to shut stuff out, how to assess the information, how to curate it so that you're getting a good level of stuff so you're informed as opposed to drowning.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. Yeah, I agree. So in the midst of all of this, lockdown, pandemic, World War III, what are you doing creatively, and how is it reflecting in your creativity? What are you up to right now? You're always doing so many different things.
So, I've got a lot of nonfiction out there. I'm a teacher. I do a lot of classes on psychic development and energy and stuff like that. And I've done that for years and years and years. And there's some help and use. Like I've got a nice, vibrant Patreon community where I do all that teaching. But I found the past couple of years that I've been going back to writing games, doing things that are fun and a little lighthearted, that
Nice.
also reflect like the values and the things that I want to see in the world. The sort of like the dreams that I want to watch people like create and get invested in.
Nice.
And using play as a way to, I don't know, in some ways sneak it past our negativity and our fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see people indulging in play, not merely as escapism, but as a place where they could dream of what's possible without telling themselves they could never have it.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah. And just to stimulate that part of their minds. The people we're so busy with all the things we have to do and the obligations and the cell phone that we're in all the time because we have to be in everyone's business. The cell phone has made us all like Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched. We don't really give ourselves enough time to just chill and play.
Yeah, well, and the gaming community's been really big, especially lately in terms of raising money. So like there's the anti-trans stuff that's going on in Texas, and I'm one of like 300 independent games creators who all banded together to create this big like bundle of games. So like you get
Beautiful.
like 400 and some odd games for $5, but all of the proceeds go to these two charities that we're all backing up
wonderful.
for. And we're like, oh well, maybe it'll raise $1,000 or so. It is at last check at $150,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
It has been like I think it's been up for maybe 2.5 days. Like that's been in like 48. Like it's wild and wonderful and also like heartwarming because there really are more of us than there are of the haters who are trying to do this.
It's so beautiful.
And
so beautiful.
I don't know that we would get the same response if we were just like, here is this charity, but
right.
connecting it to play and to fun. And people were like,
great.
I will buy some games and support this. So like yesterday for Ukraine, they're going to be doing something similar like that. I wrote a game all just yesterday. Like I sat down and was like,
nice.
Okay, everybody's probably by now seen the video of the little old lady, the little Baba, who goes up to this like kitted out Russian soldier. He's there with a big long gun, looks scary as, and she's just like, here, take these sunflowers, get off our land. If you don't leave, just take these sunflowers, put them in your pocket. So at least sunflowers grow when you die on our land. Take these sunflowers. I curse you. And I mean, she's just full on, like, just, this is a witch. There's no two ways about it. She is straight up.
So great. We are so absolutely out of time. I adore you. Let's do this again. Where can people find you online?
Patreon.com/haunted is the easiest to remember. MichelleBelanger.com, Seth Anakim on Twitter. All of those are places. But just look for the sunflower game. Look for
nice.
All that stuff.
Wonderful.
Too much.
Thank you, Michelle, so much for being here. I adore you. I'm at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. And you can find me everywhere at Sheena Metal on social media. And to look for episodes of this show, look for KGRADB.com. Until I see you next time, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration. Know that I love you, and I'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. It's the Sheena Metal Experience. Have a good week.